Hey there, this is Cooper from Telepathic Bunny Comics. The show is The Right Stuff. And today I have Mr. Michael Oden on with me. Nine Realms Publishing, the Elysian Fields, The Embrace. I've missed one. Never missed an IP. Is that the two? Yep. So SPQR. We'll talk about that.
Is coming up. Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Well, that whole Roman thing, I'm a little surprised you got the Roman mythology and the Elysian, or not Roman mythology, but Greek mythology, and then SPQR, but your Nine Realms Publishing, I guess that's from Michael Oden, right? So the Viking thing. Have you thought of any Viking properties?
I have. So like Elysian Fields, you're going to start to there in the next book that I do for Elysian Fields, you're going to get introduced to a secondary team of protagonists at the very end of the issue.
Okay.
And that team is Team Valhalla. So like you will like the series will effectively be building up to the clash between Valhalla and Team Hades. And
I hear you.
So like that'll be what we do with that. But
just full disclosure. So
yeah. And I'm so happy that you've gotten a hold of the books, because like they're like Elysian Fields is a very fun book, I think. And
all right.
The first book we did very well. Second book, Pyramid Gambit, we did okay, but it didn't perform as well as I would have hoped. So I'm glad that people. It always warms my heart when I see someone that had backed the book, because it was like a big thing for me. And
I think your issue with the second book was Agamemnon is not a easy guy to like.
You mean Achilles? Because Agamemnon
Achilles. I'm sorry, Achilles. Yeah, he's not an easy guy to like, to be honest. He finally hit some humanity at the end of book 2, but before then he was
the whole. Like I wanted to portray Achilles as accurately to how he is in the Iliad as possible, and that's really that's what he is a.
Yeah, he was kind of a dick in the Iliad.
Petulant man who literally
not only does he kill Hector, but he drags him around the fields.
Like the whole.
Yeah. Whoops. All
right.
Oh, you there? No problem.
There we go. I'm back.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no problem.
So like the entirety of the Iliad is him effectively throwing a temper tantrum. The whole story, like when you read the Iliad, it starts off and it's all about like the prologue to it is effectively like sing goddess, sing of the rage of Achilles, which brought countless woes to both Greek and Trojan alike.
Right.
And so like that's kind of the core thing of Achilles' story, is his rage, is recognizing that rage isn't good. But like rage is a very big part of Achilles. And so like you get this prideful anger from him throughout the entirety of Elysian Fields. You do get to kind of like the big thing that I wanted to do is I pull a little bit from post Homerica as well, where you have the whole myth of him being dipped into the river Styx. And so like in his mortal life, he was invulnerable, but in this tournament, he's not. And so that was something that I brought to it. And in the third book, we really delve into kind of Achilles' broken psyche from the Trojan War when we get a chance to do that book.
That's the thing, at the end of the second book, he finally has a human moment, and I was like, okay, I think I could like this guy now. Now that he's not rape Palpatine, and he has a little bit of like, oh no, So
he definitely has a little bit of the whole chip on his shoulder throughout the first few books, throughout like the majority of those first 2 books. Like he's a smug. You have to like it, and when I was talking about it in promotion, this is something that I brought up. It's like, we have to remember that if we're going off of like mythological timeline, Achilles was 13 when he went to Troy. So imagine you're 13 years old and you're being told that you are the best warrior in all of Greece, and then you go to actually fight, and turns out you really are. Like you're kicking everyone's ass. And you also have this notion that you're gonna die young. Like this is your chance of glory. And so every single victory is that much more important to him. And really his pride is pretty much all he has. That and the legacy of being remembered. And so like that's ultimately where you get to see like that's Achilles' demon is he has this rage, he has this pride that blinds him to reality a lot of the time, and that's something that I really wanted to play with, but you have to lay the groundwork right. Like you have to have him start off as kind of an unlikable ass. In order to really break him down and showcase, like this is a character that goes through a journey, and part of his journey is kind of coming to terms with this ugly side of himself.
Well, that's the sign of a good writer and somebody that's honest to, allow their protagonists to be unlikable. My book, I've got a guy who's basically takes command of the situation, and then suddenly I realized he was manipulating everybody, and that was a little surprising to me because when I wrote him, I didn't realize he was being manipulative, and then I realized, holy crap, he's being manipulative, but he's doing it to save their lives, but it's still manipulation, and I was like, that's probably going to come home to roost at some point, but.
Well, I mean, that's a great plot element for later. I mean, you talked a little bit about how, in the green room when we were chatting before, you talked a little bit about how you take a lot of inspiration from like Claremont's X-Men run. That's the whole dynamic between Cyclops and Wolverine. Like Cyclops is the guy making the calls on the battlefield. He is when you are in that position, you are effectively manipulating people to make sure that they get home at the end of the day. And that's why he and Logan hate each other. Logan is just like, no, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want.
Well, at the same time, Logan has enough experience to know what Scott's doing and to not appreciate it. So, plus the whole Jean Grey love triangle thing. Anyway, the original love triangle, though, not the twisted whatever it turned into. Anyway, we'll talk about you. What was it?
I said not the tricycle.
The tricycle. Oh, wow. I haven't heard it called that, but it makes a lot of sense. Well, that's both disturbing and clever.
Why I'm here.
Anyway. Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right. Writer, what do you expect, that's one thing that writers do. We all, I've never met a writer that didn't have a really dark sense of humor or imagination, I think it's part of the package,
we put our characters through hell. Like that's kind of like the whole point, is that if a character doesn't struggle, if a character doesn't face really crappy situations and overcome them, they're not much of a hero, are they?
No. Does that ever make you feel a little bit like a sadist?
Sometimes.
Well, that's all part of the hero's journey. You got to have a journey. Got to be some obstacles involved. Anyway, so we usually start out by allowing you to give whatever biography you want to give. It can be as little or as much as you want to give.
Well, I'll try and keep it limited, just because I can talk for like ever.
Gotcha.
But
writer,
yeah. I'm Michael Oden. I'm the writer of, as T Bunny pointed out, I'm the writer of such works as Elysian Fields and The Embrace, and the upcoming historical satire SPQR's Bizarre Adventure. And I'm the founder of Nine Realms Publishing. It's my comic publishing imprint. And I got into this industry about 2 years ago at this point.
Okay.
But writing is something that I've always enjoyed doing, and storytelling is always something that's been a part of me. And I really got into professional writing while I was deployed in 2015, 2016, when I started writing for industry blogs such as Movie Pilot. I worked for Heroic Hollywood for a little bit. I do occasional work for a site called Up Your Geek now.
Oh, okay.
Doing like comic reviews, movie reviews, stuff like that. Like that is what I got into. And that's really kind of what put me down this road. And actually taking the jump into comics took me going through some of the worst moments of my life, where my marriage started to fall apart and my wife and I separated. And I kind of started getting into comics to be able to cope with it in one way, and in another, give myself something to, like, I don't want to say believe in, but like really just keep me putting one foot in front of the other and pushing myself to be the best version of myself. It was a part of this whole journey of self-improvement, honestly. I was like, I feel that a lot of the issues that had come into my marriage initially were due to unhappiness linked to, like, I didn't like the job I was working. I didn't like the hours that I was working. I felt unfulfilled doing what I did. And I would sit there and I would evaluate all the things being done wrong in comics and films and talk about how I would handle it. And then when people would be like, well, why don't you do it? I'd just make excuses. And I got into comics to kind of break that chain and push myself to become the best version of myself, to be that person for myself.
Did you have the epiphany like I did when you realized that you were writing comics your entire life?
I don't know if I had an epiphany that I was writing comics my entire life, but like when I started writing comics, it was one of these things where it's like I knew that this is what I was meant to be doing. Like when I finished the first draft of Elysian Fields, and I started getting the feedback on it, because I sent it out to a bunch of people that I knew wouldn't like give me BS. Like if they didn't like it, they would tell me that they didn't like it.
Like Kemosabe.
Yeah, like I didn't know him at that point. But like I put it out to a bunch of people that I worked with and people that I knew that were other writers as well. And like the only, I wouldn't say even negative feedback, but the only feedback that I got that was like any quote unquote cause for concern was like one of the guys was like, look, this is a solid script, but if you don't have a good artist, this book's going to fall on its face. Like really bad. And that was I think the one cautionary note that I got from the script, and like getting that, I was just like, okay. And so that's when I started pushing to do the book.
That's the
and
that's
now
true.
Here we
that's
are.
true.
3 books later.
You got a very visual writing style. You can tell that you have a lot of dynamicism in your writing, to where some people kind of have like a different kind of pace. Your pace seems to be pretty much action oriented, but you managed
on
to
the story, but Like,
I've read after some people that are action oriented like that, and they don't have any character development going on, and but you actually have the character development and kind of
I think that's
in
something
the
that I
ratings.
feel does get lost a lot in the indie community. There are a few books that
Oh
I
yeah.
received, a few books I received this week that I went through and I read.
Mm.
And to say that I was annoyed that I spent as much as I did on those campaigns is an understatement, because like I got one where I did a catch-up tier and I got to the end of the last book. I couldn't tell you the names of more than 2 of the characters. And the plot was just cliched and bad. Didn't make a lot of sense. And the way that it was handled between all of the books, it just, nothing flowed and nothing made sense. And it also didn't help that there were like pretty constant jumps between different artists and different art styles and even narrative scopes. And it was just like, look, like changing your artist once because you want to get an improvement, I get. That's fine. But whenever you do that kind of change, you do want to make sure that the art matches the tone of the story you were telling before, so that there's that consistency, you know? Yeah,
I can guess. I can guess probably at least one of the books that you got in your possession. We could probably compare notes off screen. I know you don't want to spill tea. Well, is there a book that you read that made you like, gee, I think I want to do this? Is it?
I don't know if there's like a single book that did that for me. There's like, when it comes down to just writing in general, the story that always started it all for me was like the Iliad. My dad would read me the Iliad as a kid, as a bedtime story, and that's where like my love of storytelling really started. But as far, you know what, there is a book that I can put out there that it didn't inspire me to start writing Elysian Fields and start getting into all of this, but it taught me how to write a script. Because that was the big issue. That was one of the big issues that I was having, was I didn't know how to format it. And so I had bought the collector's edition of Marv Wolfman's Man and Superman, which was a phenomenal book on its own. Great book. But at the back of the collector's edition, Marv Wolfman included his script for the first issue of the book. And so, I mean, you're not going to really learn, like, Marv Wolfman is a legend in the industry. So, like, if the script works for one of the greatest writers of any comic ever, you can probably, it's probably safe to assume that is a pretty safe bet as far as like how to format things. Because like my big problem was I had looked into a few script writing classes, and the ones that I had taken weren't particularly effective because all of it was stuff that like I already knew. Like, I don't need you to explain to me what a protagonist and an antagonist is. I don't need you to explain 3-arc structure.
I just need to know just the facts, ma'am. I need some nuts and bolts. Yeah.
I don't need you to tell me what a plot diagram is. I understand setting, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution.
Yeah.
I understand all that. I don't need any of it. I just need, how do I format a script so that if I give it to an artist, they can turn it into a page? Or if I wanted to write a screenplay, that would, like, do I need to include, like, do I need to go full on Bill Shakespeare play script and write everything from set piece to stage direction? Or do I just need to give settings and dialogue and all of that stuff gets sorted out while we're filming?
Right.
And so like that was the whole thing, was like I was trying to learn the formatting and the structure but every class that I was taking was all about the actual crafting the narrative piece. And I was like, I don't need that shit. I know how to do that. Like I've been doing that since I could remember.
Well, there's obviously a lot of writers in CG right now that could use that part though, but
that is very much the case. And there are a lot of writers out there in CG that desperately need editors, and not just editors that will be like, yeah, pay me $100 and I'll edit your book and just kiss their ass. No, like editors that will straight up look at it and tell you, okay, this is trash. This is trash. This is trash. This is how we fix this.
I call it killing your darlings.
Yes, exactly.
You need an editor that will take your darlings out of your script and cut their throat in front of you.
If you have an editor,
make you eat it.
If your editor comes back to you and tells you, I wouldn't change a thing, you need to get a new editor.
Yeah, right.
Because that's bullshit. Like, even if it's just, hey, you had some syntax issues here, or hey, there's too many words in this dialogue space. Spread this out so that it's across different panels, so that the word balloon isn't just this massive Brian Michael Bendis heap.
Right. Yeah, that's hard to find.
Yeah, like if you have somebody that is just kissing your ass, you don't have an editor, you have a simp.
Right.
You have a paid pat in the back. You don't need that. You need somebody that is going to be critical of your work, that is going to look at things and be like, okay, so while I enjoy this is what we like. There's always room for improvement. We can make this better. Your pacing in this area drags. Let's shift these panels around. Let's do this. Let's do that. That's the.
Did you wind up finding a book that helped you with that?
With with getting a good editor?
Format and everything. With the format and everything.
Oh, with the formatting? No, I just got I got Marv Wolfman's Man and Superman, and I read his script, and I literally just studied it. I studied it for hours and hours and hours. And when I was writing Elysian Fields, whenever I was having an issue, being like, all right, how should I explain this so that the artist?
What would Wolfman do? Huh?
Exactly. And then I'd be like, oh, well, Marv Wolfman did a very similar thing on this page of this. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to go look at it, look it up, and see what terminology he used. And then I would copy it and use it. So yeah, that's effectively what I did with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of what we do as writers, you can only be taught so much. A lot of it's reverse engineering.
Yeah.
It took me a while to find my my narrative style. It took me a while to figure out which person I like to I write best in, and a lot of people don't even know that there's different persons. You read after some people, and you're like, why did you skip from first person to third person and then back to
and you do realize that if you have a narrative voice, that voice needs to be consistent.
Exactly.
You can't just be telling a story from a first person perspective and then shift to second or third. Which you got to be dedicated to your perspective, and if you got first person, I don't even know if I've ever seen somebody write a book in second person. That would be a very weird experience.
Well, I actually did.
I would like to see that, because that's
it's kind of
that feels similar, more like a user manual.
Yeah, exactly.
You did this.
Well, the way I did it though is I used I did use a first person narrator, but the protagonist was actually being looked at by the narrator. The narrator wasn't the protagonist, but the protagonist was. It was almost that
would be third person omniscient,
right? Well, it's not omniscient because he didn't know everything.
Second person would effectively be like me describing what you're doing. Like it's me talking to you.
Well, that's what it was. Well, that's what it was. He was like describing, or he was like viewing this person from the outside, but that person was the protagonist. and that wound up being
so second person is the person. The audience is effectively the person that the narrator is talking to.
Well, he wasn't talking to anybody. It was like it's through his eyes, but the protagonist is actually somebody you don't quite ever inhabit, and so that allowed for kind of a limited perspective from the person that you're following around, but the protagonist was clearly this other guy, and you never quite inhabit him. You kind of just watch him. You're like a bystander.
I got you.
Kind of like Miguel Cervantes.
It kind of. So what you're saying is it kind of straddles like second and third person, like a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it definitely had some second person in it. So, but it's a weird hybrid, I guess. I should have said a hybrid. It's more like Miguel Cervantes and Don Quixote.
Yeah, because the only things that I can really think of that do second person well are like choose your own adventure books, where it's like you decide to do this, go turn to like you're effectively playing an RPG in a book. Right.
Well, that was a challenge when I got to a comic book though. I kind of have, you know, the concept of donkey. I have a donkey.
Yeah.
The guy that carries the narrative.
Yeah.
And this is like the focal point. Well, when I got to that, and I figured out that I had to do a lot of skipping around to different people's perspectives. But I mean, he's still a center focus, but you know, you had to basically my whole entire book is starting from about 20 pages in is basically one whole fight scene, you know, one breakneck speed, you know, high stakes fight scene. And to do that effectively, I had to kind of like do some jumping around. And so that took a lot of balance. Writing that script was one of the great challenges of my life, trying to figure out it. But you know, that's what kills me about people who I don't know if you've heard people say this on these streams or in these conversations, that anybody can write. You haven't heard anybody say that? Well, I've heard it way more than once. But
I hate that. Like the more that I have become engrossed in this industry, the more that I hate anyone that says, "Well, anyone can write." No, okay,
yeah,
right. Anybody can write words on a sheet of paper. You are technically correct. Not everybody knows how to tell a story. Not everyone knows how to tell a narrative, and there are a lot of people that I literally read the stuff and I just go,
"You're learning on the job."
Well, it's not even necessarily
you're totally learning on the job. You don't have a clue what you're doing.
I feel that there is a level of talent that goes, just like there is with an art. Like I draw and I've taught myself a lot of things, but I don't have the talent. I do not have the talent to do interior artwork. I don't have the consistency. I don't have the ability to do the dynamic, dynamic shots and everything like that. I don't have the ability to do it. And you know, I work at it and I get better, but I don't think I will ever be at a point where I'm able to do the interiors on a book. And that's fine.
Right.
But I feel like there are certain people where it's like, you need to accept your limitations. You that's not to like put anybody down, but like there are there are a lot of people that have great ideas, but they can't execute them because they don't have the ability to craft narrative.
Don't have the prerequisite skill set to do it. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of learning about it that goes into it. You know, there's also a lot of talent that goes into it. Some people just, you know, not everyone's Ernest Hemingway. You know, and that's not and that's not to come off as like narcissistic either, because like I don't hold myself on some massive pedestal. Like I write because I enjoy writing and because people seem to enjoy what I write, and I'm happy with that.
Well, you got somebody like Joe Catapano of Star Circuit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I read he had like a supplemental where he discussed his journey into writing that book. And then he was talking about, I went to write the script. I realized I wasn't good enough to write the script yet. I learned to write. And then I kept practicing until I got to the point where I felt like, okay, I wrote the script that I needed.
There is everyone I think can attain a certain level of professional writing ability by studying the basics.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like goodness. I will say that. It's like I feel like there is a level of professional writing that most people can attain just by studying the basics. But like what really sets apart a good storyteller from just a normal person teaching themselves how to do it is something that you hit on earlier. What do how do the characters hit the audience? Does the audience want to continue the journey with the characters? And do they not necessarily identify with the characters, but empathize with them? Do they remember them? Do this character stand out? And I think that that's probably one of the biggest problems that you see in independent comics is that there are a lot of these books where these guys, they have the disposable income to get great art because the art in a lot of these books are fantastic.
Jaw dropping.
The characters are absolutely horrible and they don't catch you. They don't stay with you.
No.
And I can't. There are very few books that I have read in my 2 years where I know the characters of the book.
Yeah. Well, I want to. I not only want to know who these characters are, I want to care about these characters.
Yeah.
And I've got one of the biggest IPs in Comicsgate. It's on 4 books deep, and I stopped at book 3. But I realized I got to the end of the book. I realized that the characters that I've been following the whole entire series, I couldn't remember one of them's name. I couldn't remember his name. I couldn't remember, and they thrown a whole bunch of characters at me and everything like that. And then they killed one of them off, and it was like they killed Kenny, those bastards, and it was so ephemeral. And this is like one of the major IPs in Comicsgate. And this
I think I know exactly which one you're talking about too.
Yeah, and this one, the guy who writes so many books in Comicsgate, and I've gotten 2 other of his books. And he just absolutely does not develop characters. He just doesn't. And this guy's writing. I mean, he's got a major writing credit, and he writes half the books in Comicsgate, it seems. And he never develops his characters. He just it's action point to action point to action point. Set piece.
Well, what's really sad to me is there were a few reviewers that I felt that were coming out that were actually being honest about that stuff.
Right.
And that because they were being honest and because they were willing to point out the flaws in these books, that everyone was patting on the back because they wanted CG to win.
Yeah. Right.
They got shooed off.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to deal with getting attacked every single time they posted up a video.
Yeah, I know a little short one that happened too.
Yeah. Well, and it's unfortunate because it's just like these people aren't wrong. And and that's one of the things that's a little maddening to me because it's like if the whole point is that we're supposed to be a meritocracy,
right,
where merit is important and we're getting customer feedback and we're listening to it. And
I compared this book in one of my reviews. I compared it to Long Harbor.
Oh,
if you've ever seen Long Harbor, it's not a fair comparison. Trust me, it's not. Long Harbor will make you want to scrub your brain after you read it. I mean, it's Lovecraftian to the best, that the really beautiful extent, and then you got this book is supposedly horror, has horror elements, and then you put up against Long Harbor, and yeah, the art's there and it's incredible, but Long Harbor's got the art, plus it's got character development. I mean, there was this like series of panels where he describes all the members of this crew, this boat, and in one sentence he described these crew members in a way that you knew those crew members and you cared about those crew members, and just just like a series of like a panel introducing each one, and there was more character development in that first page than there was that whole entire series. And I'm like, we got to do better than this. We have got to do better than this. We don't want to just succeed. We want to dominate.
Yeah, and you're not going to dominate if if all of the stories that are coming out are like mediocre at best.
Image first generation.
Yeah.
That's what we're staring in the face right now. And all these books are ephemeral, all these beautiful, gorgeous, incredibly art books. With these characters who look good on the character sheet, and but at the end of the day, I have you seen any Cyberforce fan art lately?
No.
Have you seen any Youngbloods
outside of like Brett?
Can you even name the Youngbloods?
like I don't like you don't see a lot of it. Like the only characters from that first image phase that still get like fan art are like the evergreen IPs from their biggest members, like Savage Dragon
Spawn.
and Spawn. That's about it.
Right. Well, and it's so, and people don't understand. There's so much hope, so much promise. I mean, they got out of the system. They got away from the oppressive editorial system, and they could like write and put out these books, and the art was jaw dropping. Of course, none of them could meet a deadline. No. You might get a book every 3-4 months. That's supposed to be a monthly, and then when you got the book, you're like, ooh, ah, and then I forgot the plot.
Yeah.
Was there a plot? Was there even a plot?
There were exceptions to the rule, but the rule was generally image books, very pretty, but no substance. No substance whatsoever.
No substance, no.
But anyways, let's get back to your questions, friend.
No problem. Oh, no problem. I think we kind of answered your strength and your weakness when it comes as a writer. I think you've already pretty much covered that ground. So I was going to talk next project, the SPQR. Let me go ahead and bring it up for you.
Sounds good.
All right, no problem.
Little show.
Well, here we go. And so this is SPQR's Bizarre Adventures and 9 Realms catalog. So this is it's like a catch up on everything, right?
Yep. So like when I had initially started this campaign, the whole point was we had brought on a new colorist for Elysian Fields, and during the Embrace, I had him recolor the 0 issue.
Yeah.
And so we had remastered that, but I wanted
Blinking.
Okay. And so I wanted to have him recolor Pyramid Gambit as well. And so initially the whole point was that it was going to be a remaster of Pyramid Gambit, and you could catch up on the 9 Realms catalog.
Okay.
That wasn't really grabbing people in, which is understandable. Like I even got a few messages where I was like, hey, I have your other books. Like recoloring's cool, but like I know the story. Like I don't need just let me know when your next one's coming out. And so it was like I was kind of sitting on that for a while. And we were having the issues with the Embrace at the time as well. So it was just like I need to focus on figuring out what's going on with printing and why my printer's not getting back to me on stuff. And like all of this other stuff is going on. So it was just like that became the focus. And then once stuff started to really fall in line, there was this one week at work where we had a whole bunch of people call off sick multiple days in a row. And so I was working till like 4 a.m. every day.
Wow.
And so I was sleep deprived. And, one of the pages that I follow, because I'm a very sad history nerd, called Daily Updates on the Roman Empire, had posted up that they had new merchandise, and the new thing that they had posted up was this T-shirt of Cato the Elder's bust, statue bust, with Carthago delenda est, and it was all done in like a Rocky JoJo style from JoJo's Bizarre.
Right.
And like, yes, this is a JoJo reference, and that amused me a very good deal. And so, in my sleep deprived self amusement, I did 2 drawings of Julius Caesar and Pompey Magnus as JoJo Bizarre Adventure stand users. And I posted it up on Twitter.
Yeah.
And people were really liking it. And within 20 minutes, I had gotten like 5 messages from people like, you're going to make that happen, right? Like it's going to be a real book, right? Like you're going to do this.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, I guess now I have to.
Right.
So I started looking for an artist that could imitate like a Rocky's style. And I lucked out with probably one of the best artist recommendations I've ever had. Like I'm definitely going to be working with this artist again. Her name's Kari Salviejo. She's from the Philippines. And she is outstanding. Like really.
Philippines and Spain and Brazil seem to be just hotbeds for these incredible artists, especially Brazil. I've got mine from Brazil, but exchange rates are our friend.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry, Americans. Americans. I'm sure there's incredible artists in America, but
it's too expensive. Like it really is. Like that's one of the big problems. Too expensive to hire American artists because, and it's no offense to them. Like you gotta charge those rates so you can put food on your table. I just afford those rates because I need to put food on my table.
I need to put a book out.
Exactly. So like that's what so I had her do a character sketch of Julius Caesar in the Iraqi style with his stand and everything. And she came back to me with it and it was perfect. Like
really?
I could not have asked for anything remotely better. And yes, we're doing this. And I wrote I had initially like advertised it as an ash can, but I wrote a 25-page script. And so that's what we have is we have this little 25-page manga floppy that we're printing right to left. Like everything, like it is going to be a full-on manga experience. And I was talking about it on B-Rose the other night. I was like, like if we didn't do that, the joke wouldn't stick. Like everything about this had to be authentic. Like we made sure to like homage the original like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusader final cover between where like you have the fight between Dio and Jotaro, which is what a lot of this book is based off of.
Right.
So this story takes the crossing of the Rubicon, the iconic moment from Julius Caesar's career where he starts the Roman Civil War between him and Pompey, and turns it into the finale of Stardust Crusaders, Dio's World, where Jotaro and Dio have their big showdown. And so in this we have a historical satire that's a parody of JoJo.
Right. Yeah. Well, that whole entire story about Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon, I use that phrase a lot, and I get some backlash because people don't even know what that means anymore. But
that's sad.
Crossing, yeah, it's really sad.
That's kind of like a universal expression of like you have
crossing the point of no return.
Like you've reached,
you cannot
the point
come back
of no
from
return.
this. Yeah,
there is no turning back. Like
here there be tigers. Yeah. Through that door there be tigers. And well, it's like I tell people all the time that mainstream comics have crossed the Rubicon. There's no way back from where they took it. I mean, unless you do a complete reset, there's no way back.
Yeah, like
even if you did, they know they can change it now.
Yeah, I think that there's certainly some validity to that. I honestly think that if they just brought back good editors, and steered away from any political topics for like 2 years, they'd regain some brand trust back.
Yeah. Is this the trailer?
But that's not happening.
No, I don't see that happening. Is this the trailer?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and play that right quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Let me know if you can hear it.
Goodness. Pollen is out in force today.
Yeah. Well, I like the falling leaves effect. That was really cool.
Yeah. A buddy of mine put that together for me. I was just like, hey, man, if you want, I can do a video for you. I was like, yes, please.
Yeah, awesome. That's not often you get that like somebody just give it to you. I also, I definitely wanted to talk about this book here, The Embrace.
Yes.
With all the delays, I think you lost a lot of momentum with it, and I plan on doing a review of this sometime next week. Try to get. I mean, this and Company, man, are the two books that printing issues have just absolutely killed the momentum on. Ironically, both fulfilled by RJ, who, if he had any hair, he would have pulled it out, trying to get this book in hands.
I have to take some of the blame on that because, like, I wanted to handle the East Coast stuff personally because that's what I had been doing. Like, I had been handling the local backers and everything like that. And I thought, why would I have everything shipped to a guy in the Midwest when I'm in the East Coast? Yeah. It made more. I thought it made more sense. And so that part is partially on me, but like we had all of the issues with, we got the initial print run and it was bad. And it was just like, I am not sending these books out to my backers. I'm not doing it.
Right. Yeah.
And then the original printer ghosted me for like 2 weeks. And so I had to contact my bank. I had to get the money back, and I had to get in touch with a new printer to do the print run justice. They did a phenomenal job, and they got the books out to me ahead of their own timeline. And poor Company, man. I think they finally got their printing done. They're going to start fulfilling shortly. But yeah, RJ, he was just like, man, he's like, I'm trying to fulfill these Embrace. He's got to get signatures from Dean James, but they got to get through Australia and back, And well,
everybody knows what Australia is
those
going
backers,
on right now.
there were only 10 of those, And so those guys kind of knew from the start that those books were going to take a while to get to them. But once I actually had the books, I think I got fulfillment underway pretty quickly, and I tried to get people their stuff as fast as I could. I was also all of this stuff had blown up right as I was in the middle of my custody trial. So,
wow.
There was a lot of stuff that I was juggling, but I think that I don't know if I'd say we lost momentum, because by that point we had already closed out the campaign and everything. I am just hoping that when we come back and do the next book, we're able to get most of those backers to come back.
Well, is this available in CG now? Is it going to be available in CG now?
Not yet, because I want to make sure that the books are filled, and then I don't know how much overstock.
Well, yeah, after fulfillment, of course, yeah. I highly suggest it to anybody. Make sure you have a presence in CG now, because it kills me that some people are closing these campaigns out and closing up, not putting in demand or not giving you ability to get their book. But then if you like their book, you can't suggest it to anybody.
Yeah.
And that's where you're going to get a lot of back end sales. Von Klaus, people are like, how can I get Monster MD? And he's like, oh, you want Monster MD? Yeah, I've got copies. And everybody's like, well, why don't you just put it on, and so he included in his next campaign, but it didn't even occur to him that he could could have kept selling books.
Yeah. Well, and that's definitely one of those things where it's like I kept In Demand open for a pretty long time after the Embrace closed, and we were expecting my whole thing is the reason why I kind of close out In Demand once I start fulfillment is my books just aren't at the point where I am making enough, because at the end of the day I don't just have to there are certain people that have the advantages of they are the artist, writer, and everything on their book. And so literally the only thing they're paying for is printing and fulfillment, and maybe a few variant covers. So everything else that's theirs and what have you. And so they can spend to have a whole bunch of extra books printed, because they have plenty of excess to do so with. I don't. So I generally buy I get some overstock, but I generally keep it pretty tight, because I can't afford to do it the other way. Otherwise I could not have the money to fulfill, and that's a way bigger problem. Right.
But this book in particular, story of Clarence Griffith and his son David, tragedy that happens. But people. There's a lot of people. I mean, that have kind of gone away from the whole tragic origin story. You don't see a lot of tragic origin stories anymore, where the Punisher's family gets gunned down in the park, or Batman's family or mom and dad get gunned down in front of him, or Daredevil's father gets beat to death. I mean, you that particular Peter Parker, Uncle Ben. I mean, they even erased that from the movie. It's what's killed me. I'm like, how can you have Peter Parker without Uncle Ben? But they didn't mention him. Yeah. Didn't even mention him. Aunt May's a single mother.
Okay. Which I certainly. It's the only thing about No Way Home I didn't like. I was especially considering that they had alluded to what happened to Uncle Ben in previous films.
Yeah.
In both Civil War and in Homecoming, I was just like, this character should have been present, and I get that you were trying to have Aunt May be the Uncle Ben moment here, but come on,
man. Yeah. Well, I just like the whole concept, the whole thing, and Dean James just leveling up on the art everywhere. You know, he just
was
just incredible.
When,
by the way,
when we
I like the little sticky
the
hand.
sticky hands. Yeah, those
I
things were genius.
Love it.
And that was 100% Dean's idea too. Like he was like, we were getting ready to go, and he was just like, "Hey, do you think that we could, like, you remember those glow in the dark sticky hands that you get at like carnivals and goodie bags and stuff like that?" I was like, I mean, yes. It's like, do you think we could do those for the Embrace? And I just went, you find them, I'll figure out a way to do it. And he found them, and it was super cheap, like ridiculously so. So I was like, hell yeah, of course.
Oh, they're fun. They are fun, man, and you can use them. I mean, I was like pulling things to myself from across the room. You know, I got pretty good at it. Yeah, I don't know why I misplaced it. Unfortunately,
I had to hide them because my son kept breaking into the stash that I had. And I was like, "No, you already had one." I think he got through. I think he went through like 12 of those things before I was just like, "No, you need to stop. Like, you are not."
You could lose them pretty easy. Unfortunately, I misplaced mine. But yeah, that was a real fun idea. One of the best perks I think I've seen in with these comic books. You know, I mean, the cards are nice and all, but that was fun. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, that whole I guess people they're like kind of afraid of angst, a little bit afraid of angst. They think everything's
gonna understand why that is. It's especially I do get what you're talking about. It's especially true in the indie scene, where it's like none of these guys want to tell origin stories, and they want their characters to be established already. They want everything to be in media res, and I'm just like, look, you don't just start like you have to get the audience attached. You have to. There has to be something that brings in the audience and makes them want to stick around. And as a result, you are seeing some creators in the indie scene starting to pilfer like public domain heroes, characters that do actually have a rich backstory that can be drawn from.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, creating your own character, if you want people to enjoy that story, you need to give them a reason to do. You need to give them a reason to want more. And the Embrace for me, you know, as I said, I was going through my custody trial, and so like when the Embrace came to me, it was things were going like really badly between me and my ex. Like we were trying to be civil, we were trying to do things the right way, and it wasn't working. Our communication wasn't the greatest, and there was just a lot of hurt going around. And so the Embrace just came to me in this dark place, and I wanted to tell this story where a son saves his dad. Like I wanted to, you know, because whenever you have the father-son dynamic, it's almost always, you know, father saves, father's protecting the son, because that's what you would expect, right?
Yeah.
And
but there's a kind of an aspect of Firestorm. A little bit?
Well, like I wanted it to be this whole thing where everything about the Embrace is David protecting his dad. The suit activates by them coming together and hugging. The hands, like everyone. We joke about like the hands, like the small hands coming out, but like the small hands coming out to wrap around him were supposed to be indicative of David wrapping his arms around his father, wrapping his arms around his father to protect him from harm. Like that's what everything was designed to be about. This character was David is the hero of the book. Clarence is our narrative lens. He's our protagonist.
Right. Yeah.
And by the story's end, Clarence will be the hero. Like the end of the story will be David will come full circle, and it will be David saving his son. Like it will be
Clarence saving David. Yeah.
yeah, like that is going to come into play. But like right now,
right,
Clarence is so downtrodden, is so angry, is so hopeless, and
yeah,
he's the one that needs to be saved. And in many ways, that kind of reflected my own state at that point in time.
right.
I wasn't seeing my son every day. Every single time that I had to give him away, it felt like losing him.
Right, right.
Like, cause I hadn't been that long without him around. And so whenever he was away, there was just this unsettling quietness.
Right, right.
And so like that's what I really wanted this story to be about. And it turns into a superhero story because that's where that's what it needs to do, is because you start your character someplace and then you take them on a journey, and then they get there. They get through the journey and they come out the other end.
It's like the 5 stages of grief in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and by the end of the book, Clarence will have gone through all of those 5 stages. Right now, he is in anger.
Yeah.
He is in anger and denial. He feels he just feels like everything is an injustice. Nothing is right. And David's here to remind, and David comes back to remind him of the light and bring light back.
The powers that the suit gives him are really, really incredibly unique. I found myself kind of like just, I mean, when you see something truly original, you don't see that very often. And I've honestly, maybe it's that my comic book reading is maybe too narrow or something, but I don't remember anybody ever having a power of multiple hands, like reaching, and things like that. I don't remember that anywhere else. I mean, that I guess Spider-Man had multiple arms at one point, and they do kind of act like webs and things, but
yeah, like there are definitely things that we draw influence from, obviously.
Yeah,
but like
right.
The whole point was for him to really just feel like that we knew that this character was special,
right?
And so everything about him, several discussions on like, how do we want him to fight? What do we want him to how is this going to play into things? And even the design, it's
I mean, he's obviously wanting to go further than David's willing to go, and there's that whole conflict, and
that's the whole thing. Is it's as they're moving forward, is Clarence has to let go of some of that anger, and I'm most of the way through the second book, script wise, and people are going to hate me. I put them through the ringer. They go through it for sure, but it's definitely a wake up call, because a lot of the reason that they get knocked around has to do with Clarence's anger,
right?
And
you remember that moment in The Crow, the movie, to where Top Dollar basically thinks he's won and is about to give them the killing blow, and then and it's like Eric Draven finally realizes, I know where all this pain goes. I know where all this anger, I know where all this suffering goes now, and he gave it to Top
really
Dollar, and
it's like that part of the movie is, I think, something that the original comic missed, because the comic,
original comic, he never had that moment, that epiphany. No, he
but
never
it's
did.
Crazy, because if you get the 10th anniversary edition, there's a lot of stuff in the 10th anniversary edition that James O'Barr had done originally, but it wasn't in the original book because it was too raw. It was too personal.
Right.
And you actually get a closure for Eric Draven.
Wow.
And it provides the something that was missing from the original comic. Like it's incredible. Like when I went through and I read it, like when I got to that moment, I actually cried. Like I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
Like it completely elevates it. Because like he has this whole conversation with the crow, the bird. That was the one thing the movie also didn't do, is that in the book, the crow
personify the bird. Yeah.
The crow speaks to Eric.
Right.
They have conversations. Very Edgar Allan Poe-esque. And at the end, after everyone's gone, he and Eric have another conversation, and the crow provides him an epiphany that allows him to move forward and allows him to move
right
along. And it was perfect. I was like, this is phenomenal. Just wow. And with the embrace, defeating the main bad guy isn't going to be like that moment in The Crow where he's like, I have something for you, like 19 hours of pain, right?
Right.
Like, is the line. Right. Or 20 hours of pain.
Yeah.
And sharing the memory.
And I really honestly think The Crow is the most perfect superhero movie that's ever been made. I mean, I don't think there's any flaws in it whatsoever. I mean,
I don't know
in terms of narrative, yeah.
Like the narrative is good, but there are some things that I feel like once I read.
I mean, Crow purists probably have some problems.
Yeah, like I have I have some issues with like making Eric more than what Eric is supposed to be. Because like in the movie, he's this rock star. He's also played by Brandon Lee, and and Brandon Lee obviously has the martial arts background and everything like that. Like Eric is literally supposed to be just a normal guy. Like him and Shelley are just normal people that are living on the fringes of the poverty line. And I think that them supposed to be that story.
Yeah, your internet's going out, so I think we've lost you probably the last 5 minutes. Let's see if your internet catches up here shortly. And what we got? Yeah, this happens about once a show. It's no big deal. Anyway, while he's making his way back, getting his internet back online, let me walk through. This is The Embrace. It's a really good book by. It's part of that SPQR. Part of that campaign. This is Elysian Fields 1 and 2. The one he's for sale is the remastered with this really cool hollow foil kind of cover. I really dig that. Hold on one second. Let me bring him back in.
And now there
you go. Now you're 3 of you. Let me go ahead and kick that one. Remove. Aha!
Sorry about that. My internet rebooted is what happened.
Oh, okay. No problem.
So
it gave you a different IP address. That's why there's like 3 of you.
Of course. Anyway. But yeah. Well, what were we even talking about? But
we were talking about your problems with Crow movie.
Yeah, and I think that there were certain elements I would have handled differently, especially from the comic book standpoint. But like other than that, I do think it's fantastic. Brandon Lee's performance in there is incredible.
Yeah. If you're gonna go out, that's the movie to go out on. That was kind of like the only consolation that I felt like there was in that whole thing. Yeah. Was if you're gonna go out, that's a hell of a way to go out. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, like it's also like doomed. Any attempt to try and do another Crow it's always goes back to like, well, like how does it compare to Brandon Lee's performance? It's like that's almost not even a fair thing to bring in. But yeah,
no. Well, I mean, he just had this. He just got it. He understood what Eric Draven was, and he just like I really it's probably one of my top all-time movies of all time. Sorry, why do I do that? Why do I do that? Why do you repeat all time? If it's all time, it's one of my top all-time movies. Okay, don't leave the extra all time. All right, anyway, that kills me. I'm like, this is shitty writing, man. It's shitty writing. Anyway, I've really enjoyed our conversation. This is the part of the show where I allow you to put me on the hot seat. Is there any questions you have for me, or is there any question you wish I would have asked you? And I think your internet went out again. No biggie. He'll be back shortly. There you are. I hear you, man.
All right.
I hear you.
All right. So for the sake of making sure that it's been such a blast chatting with you again.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me be on here. And
all right.
I really, really appreciate the kind words of The Embrace. It's on The Embrace.
It's a great book. It's a really awesome book. I really enjoy it.
It's such it was such a personal. It is such a personal.
You could tell. Anyway, I'm going to have your campaign for SPQR is going to be in the description. Place your contact information. Is there anything else you want people to know right quick? Is that pretty much it?
Follow us on follow me on Twitter at Elysian Fields _0 and make sure you're signed up for SPQR so you don't miss out on the pre-launch exclusives.
Do you have any shows or YouTube that you want me to promote or anything?
I have a YouTube channel, but I'm not really like in the process of building it up at this point. I'm trying to kind of get an idea of how I want to do that.
Okay, no problem.
Maybe in the future.
Just in case people want to. Yeah, we'll include it in the links just in case people want to like subscribe for when you do figure out what you want to do. Anyway, that will be on Saturday. That would be the 19th at 7:00. If you have time to drop by, it's going to be a live chat. We're going to debut this. Anyway, that has been Cooper from Telepathic Bunny Comics, and I've been talking to Mr. Michael Oden from 9 Realms Publishing. And that's a show. And so y'all have a good night.